I never imagined that a routine Friday lunch rush could turn into something unforgettable. I was doing the same as always, balancing trays, jotting down orders, moving from table to table, when she walked in, Caitlin Clark. But it wasn't just her fame that made my heart pound. It was what she did after she left that changed everything. Jessica, 28, had been waiting tables at Bayside Bistro for nearly 3 years. The little restaurant sat tucked into a bustling Oakland street corner, known for its warm atmosphere and hearty California dishes. Locals loved it, and curious visitors often stopped by after hearing word of its seasonal berry cobbler and fresh seafood salads. Jessica wore her welcoming smile like armor, even though she carried a burden few of her customers knew about. Her 6-year-old son Tyler was in the hospital, waiting for a risky heart operation. Between her rent, groceries, and mounting medical bills, every paycheck vanished before it hit her bank account. Still, she worked each shift with determined optimism, hoping that something, anything, would tip her luck in a better direction. That morning, the restaurant buzzed with its usual energy. Jessica deftly reset a wobbly table, exchanged quick jokes with the day's sous chef, and greeted each guest by name. By 1 p.m., the dining room was packed. Conversation and cutlery clinked together in harmonious chaos. Then a hush rippled outward from the entrance. Jessica glanced up and saw her, Caitlin Clark, sliding through the front door, flanked by 2 friends and a couple of more discreet entourage members. She wore a simple navy hoodie and jeans, but there was no mistaking that 6'1" frame and the easy, confident way she moved. For a moment, the entire restaurant seemed to freeze. Phones popped up from pockets, whispers fluttered between tables. Yet Jessica forced herself to stay calm. She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, adjusted her apron, and approached her table with the same courtesy she showed everyone. "Good afternoon," she said, offering her warmest smile. "Welcome to Bayside Bistro. I'm Jessica, and I'll be serving you today. What can I get started for you all to drink?" Caitlin looked up, that signature bright grin softened by genuine warmth. She nodded appreciatively and ordered iced teas for herself and her friends. Jessica noted how down-to-earth she seemed, nothing like the larger-than-life persona the media often painted. As she jotted down their request, she noticed how Caitlin's eyes scanned the room, taking in small details. The vintage basketball poster on the far wall, the dishwashers moving behind the kitchen pass, the way the midday sun cast a warm glow through the front windows. There was an unhurried kindness to her, as if she genuinely enjoyed being in an ordinary neighborhood joint. While Jessica bustled back and forth with other tables, she felt a thrill each time she passed Clark's group. That table drew more attention than any other. Children craned their necks, camera lenses creaked into position, and Sarah, a college student seated nearby, practically vibrated with excitement as she texted friends to come see. Yet whenever her path crossed Caitlin's, Clark nodded or offered a quick thank you, never letting herself be distracted from enjoying her meal. About 20 minutes later, Caitlin called her over. Jessica hurried up, heart fluttering. "Everything all right with your lunch?" she asked, holding her notepad at the ready. Caitlin set her cup down and smiled. "It's great," she said. "We were wondering if we could see a dessert menu. Anything you recommend?" Jessica brightened. "Definitely. Our homemade desserts are really popular, especially today's special. A warm berry cobbler with a vanilla bean custard drizzle. It's made fresh each morning." Clark chuckled, exchanging a glance with her friends. "Sounds perfect," she said. 4 of those, please." As Jessica walked away to place the dessert order, her mind spun. In the midst of her struggles, Tyler's surgery costs, weeks of sleepless nights, juggling bills, this felt surreal. Serving Caitlin Clark in person felt like witnessing a miracle, even though Caitlin was just a person like anyone else. A woman with a child who might crave blueberry pie. A woman who likely understood what it meant to shoulder pressure and expectation. When the cobblers arrived, steaming and fragrant, Clark leaned back in her chair, taking a moment to savor the first spoonful. Then when the table was cleared and she was ready to leave, Jessica brought the check politely. Caitlin scanned it, then looked up at her with sincere eyes. "Thank you, Jessica," she said. "You made our lunch great." Jessica managed a shy smile and nodded, shoving her notepad into her apron pocket. A few minutes later, as Clark and her friends rose, Jessica noticed a small envelope beside the gently tipped pepper shaker where she had been sitting. Curiosity urged her forward. Jessica scooped it up and opened it once they were gone. The note inside read, "Thank you for the wonderful service. God bless you and your family." Beneath those words was a generous check, enough to cover not just Tyler's next hospital visit, but hours more of treatment. Jessica pressed her hand to her chest, breath catching. The world felt different in that moment, as though fate had finally stretched out a helping hand. And all because one of women's basketball's brightest young stars had decided to eat in a little Oakland restaurant on a Friday afternoon. I unfolded the small envelope and read the scrawled words, "God bless you and your family." Beneath the note was the payment for our meal. And then I saw the tip. My fingers trembled as I counted. It was more money than I'd ever held in my hands. Caitlin Clark had left an unbelievably generous tip. Enough, I realized in a heartbeat, to cover almost all of Tyler's surgery. My breath caught. Tears blurred my vision. I tucked the note to my chest and let the tears fall, overwhelmed by what felt like a miracle. A hush fell over Bayside Bistro as my sobs turned into quiet gasps. Mr. Thompson and the other servers gathered around. "Jessica, what is it?" Mr. Thompson asked, concern etched across his face. "She paid the bill, but look at the tip." I choked out the words, barely able to speak. Before anyone could respond, I darted toward the door, bursting through to see Clark slipping into her car. "Caitlin, thank you! You saved my son!" I shouted, tears streaming. She looked back, offered a calm nod and a small peace sign, and then the car pulled away. When I returned inside, gratitude filled the room. Customers and coworkers who had witnessed the moment came forward. Some clapped, others reached out to hug me. "This is incredible," Mr. Thompson said, placing a steadying hand on my shoulder. Just then, Amber, another server, stalked over, arms crossed and brows furrowed. "Congratulations, Jessica," she snapped. "I guess good service now earns you lottery winnings. Maybe next time someone will buy me a house." Her voice dripped with bitterness. My throat tightened, but I swallowed hard and replied, "Amber, I didn't ask for this. You have to understand this isn't just a tip. It's for my son's surgery." Amber rolled her eyes. "Sure, always playing the struggling mother card," she sneered. "I work just as hard and never get a break. Seems like only those with drama get rewarded." Staff members began to gather, sensing the tension. Mr. Thompson stepped in. "Amber, let's talk in the kitchen." She huffed but refused, stepping back instead. "It's not fair," she muttered to anyone who would listen. "I bust my tail here, and nothing ever happens for me." I drew in a slow breath, forcing myself to stay calm despite my racing heart. "Amber, I said softly, if you were in my shoes, knowing your child's life depends on this, you'd be grateful too." This wasn't luck. It was an act of kindness. As the words settled, one of our regular customers, a middle-aged man who'd watched everything unfold, stood and addressed the room. "Hey, don't turn this into something ugly." Caitlin Clark saw someone who needed help and did what she could. We should all learn from that. His voice echoed through the dining room, and slowly Amber's shoulders sagged. "Fine," she mumbled. "I hope it helps your son." She retreated to the back, and the palpable relief rippled through the restaurant. Mr. Thompson smiled encouragingly. "Go on, Jessica. Take what you need. Your son needs you." Clutching the envelope, I slipped out into the afternoon sun, every step carrying me closer to hope. At the hospital, my heart pounded as I approached the front desk. "Good afternoon," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'm here to pay for my son, Tyler Wilson's surgery." The receptionist's eyes widened at the envelope I placed on the counter. "In cash?" she asked. I nodded, feeling the weight of Clark's generosity transform into real, tangible hope for my little boy. "Yes, in cash," Jessica replied, unzipping her bag and counting out the bills. Almost instantly, a wave of relief washed over her, as if a great weight had been lifted from her shoulders. While she waited for the hospital staff to process the payment, she glanced down the hallway toward Tyler's room. He'd been in that bed for weeks. Each day without surgery was a race against time. Now, at last, she could guarantee he'd get the care he desperately needed. A few minutes later, Dr. Mitchell appeared at the reception desk. He was typically reserved, but in that moment, his face shone with genuine happiness. "Jessica," he said, sliding the paperwork across the counter, "we've just been notified that the bill is paid in full. This is wonderful. We'll get Tyler prepped for surgery immediately." Tears sprang to Jessica's eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice cracking. "You're saving my son's life, Darbetta." Mitchell offered a reassuring smile and laid a steady hand on her shoulder. "You've been an incredible advocate for Tyler. Now he'll have every chance to grow up strong and healthy." Hearing that the operation was scheduled for the next morning felt like a true gift. Jessica hurried to Tyler's room, where she found him sitting up in bed, rolling a small toy car along the sheets. "Mom," he exclaimed, his face lighting up brighter than any lamp in that sterile ward. She knelt beside him and hugged him tightly. His body was frail, but the love between them was fierce. "Everything's going to be okay," she soothed, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. "Tomorrow they'll fix your heart. Then we'll go home. Just you and me." Tyler, still too young to fully grasp the gravity of the situation, simply smiled and said, "I trust you, Mom." And in that moment, her heart both ached and soared at his innocence. That night, Jessica remained by his side, praying and reflecting on how a chance encounter with Caitlin Clark had altered her life. The echo of her kindness, an ordinary lunch turned miracle, resonated in her thoughts. She stroked Tyler's hair as he slept, murmuring gratitude to whatever higher power had guided Clark's generosity to her table. Early the next morning, the medical team arrived to prepare Tyler for surgery. Jessica accompanied them down the hallway to the operating room door. She knelt, pressed a kiss to his forehead, and whispered, "I'm right here, and so is God. You're so brave, my angel." With that, she let the nurses usher him inside and returned to the waiting room. Clutching the small note Clark had left, she sat rigidly in a plastic chair, her pulse slowing only when other parents offered words of encouragement. Each minute felt like an hour until Dr. Mitchell reappeared at last, his smile radiating through tired eyes. "Jessica, the surgery was a success. Tyler's in recovery now, and everything went perfectly." Relief crashed over her, and she sank to her knees, tears of gratitude flowing freely. "Thank you," she breathed. "Thank you, God. And thank you, Caitlin." In the days that followed, Tyler recovered astonishingly quickly. Every small milestone, his first sip of juice, his first drowsy smile, filled Jessica's world with hope. Meanwhile, word of Clark's gesture spread like wildfire. Videos and photos of the moment at Bayside Bistro had gone viral on social media, and people everywhere were moved by the story of a hardworking single mother given a lifeline by a rising star athlete. Back at the restaurant, Mr. Thompson beamed at Jessica. "Your story reminded everyone that genuine kindness can change lives," he said. "You deserve all the recognition, but you've stayed so humble." Jessica nodded, tears glistening. Fame and attention meant little compared to the gift of her son's health. A few days later, her phone rang unexpectedly. "Hello, Jessica. This is Marcus from Caitlin Clark's agency. Caitlin was deeply moved by your story and wants to help even more." Her heart pounded as Marcus explained that Clark would cover all of Tyler's future medical care and set up a small fund to ease her financial burdens. That weekend, Clark posted on her social channels, "I met an incredible woman named Jessica who treated me with kindness without knowing who I was. Let's remember to help our neighbors. No gesture is too small." Her post garnered thousands of shares and comments, and soon donations and offers of assistance poured in from people wanting to support Jessica and Tyler. Back in Tyler's recovery room, Jessica watched her son play with a new set of toy cars. He was laughing, fully himself again. She wiped away joyful tears as he looked up and asked, "Mom, why are you crying?" She tucked a loose curl behind her ear and smiled. "These are happy tears, sweetheart. Because of someone's kindness, you get to keep playing." For Jessica, Clark's gesture was far more than financial aid. It was proof that one person's compassion can create ripples of hope, transforming despair into possibility, and giving a mother the faith to believe in miracles once more. It was a clear demonstration that kindness still existed in the world, and that sometimes miracles arrive when we least expect them. That night, after a long day of checking on Tyler's progress and watching him drift into a peaceful sleep, Jessica sat by the bedside and reached into her purse for the small note that had changed everything. Thank you for the wonderful service. God bless you and your family. She smoothed the creased paper gently against her palm, remembering how heavy it had felt when she first pulled it from that envelope at Bayside Bistro. Now it served as a talisman against despair, proof that even in the darkest moments, light can come from the most unexpected places. She closed her eyes and recalled the exact expression on Caitlin Clark's face when she handed her the check. There had been no fanfare, no grand announcement, only a simple nod and words of gratitude. I was just doing my job the best I could, she whispered into the dimly lit room, recalling how natural it felt to greet each customer with a genuine smile, not knowing what that would bring. Yet in hindsight, she realized that the small choices, treating every visitor with unwavering kindness, never letting her worry show, had conspired to touch something deep in Clark's heart. She didn't just leave a tip, she left her with hope. Hope, she understood now, could be more powerful than any amount of money. In the weeks that followed, that note remained folded in her wallet, its edges fraying from constant handling. She and Tyler moved into a modest new apartment closer to the hospital, where follow-up visits became less of a burden. Tyler's laughter returned with each passing day. First a tentative giggle as he discovered how his heart was healing, then full-throated chuckles as he built towers of blocks on the living room floor. Jessica watched him play, her own eyes glistening with gratitude. Their lives were not magically perfect yet. There were still medical checkups, physical therapy sessions, and the lingering anxiety that accompanies any long recovery. But the burden that had felt inescapable was lifted. That sense of suffocating dread was replaced by an ember of inspiration. If one small gesture could change their future so profoundly, then perhaps they could pay it forward in kind. Before long, local news outlets picked up the story. Neighbors offered to help with groceries, school teachers sent care packages, and even regular customers at Bayside Bistro began pitching in. Some volunteered to babysit Tyler during appointments. Others slipped extra tips into Jessica's apron pocket. Caitlin Clark's social media posts continued to circulate, spreading the message that we all have the capacity to change a life overnight. Encouraged by this outpouring, Jessica started volunteering at a nearby children's clinic, sharing her story with other parents who felt trapped by mounting medical bills. She spoke at a small community gathering, clutching the note Clark had written, and told everyone, "When you see someone struggling, remember that even the simplest act, buying a meal or offering a kind word, might be exactly what they need. You never know whose life you are holding in your hands." That evening, and as she tucked Tyler into bed, she paused in the doorway to watch him drift off. His breathing was steady, his features relaxed, and for the first time in months, she felt certain that he would grow up strong and healthy. She placed a hand on his forehead and whispered, "Sweet dreams, my love." Then, closing the door quietly behind her, she sat on the edge of her own bed and unfolded that note one last time. Reading those words gave her a calm determination. She would honor Clark's kindness by becoming a beacon of hope herself. "I never asked for a miracle that day. I was just doing my mom, serving tables, wiping down counters, offering a smile. But sometimes life surprises you. Sometimes the person who changes everything is sitting right there at your table." Caitlin Clark didn't simply leave a tip that day. She left me with something far greater: faith that generosity still lives in the everyday world. And hope, as I've learned, changes everything. And you, if you had the opportunity to transform someone's life in a single moment, would you seize it? Because small gestures, whether big or tiny, can make all the difference.